Good evening, and thank you for joining me. This is day 4 of our Sweep adventure. So before we start, I realized that some of the words, vocabulary words in this story might be unfamiliar to you, so I'm going to start with a vocabulary list. Some of the words that you will see in this chapter. You've seen the first one in previous chapters, flue. It's a tube or a passage in a building, a duct for smoke and waste gases from a fire, like in a chimney. You'll see the word emporium. All of these words throughout the story are going to be highlighted. They'll be highlighted in yellow. So number 2, emporium, a large retail store selling a wide variety of goods. Number 3, mudlark, a person who scavenges in river mud for objects of value. Number 4, pianoforte is a formal term for piano. Offal is the entrails and internal organs of an animal used for food. So you'll hear about that in the kitchen that we go into in this next chapter. Kippers, a kippered fish, especially a herring, a male salmon in the spawning season. So it's a fish, type of fish that people eat. 7, a larder is, you'll also see this in the kitchen, a room or a large cupboard for storing food. So those are some of the words that you might not recognize during this chapter that I'm going to read the next 2 chapters. So again, if you have any questions, just let me know, and I can get back to you regarding that. But thanks for joining me. Let's continue. Nan's song. Nan tried not to think about Newt climbing into his first flue. The others had learned not to work chimneys with Roger, and now Newt would learn. She knew her best chance at getting something to eat would be to find a job near a wealthy home in the West End. The servants in nice homes could be counted on to give you a bit of food once you finished the job. She supposed she was a reminder of where most of them had come from. Seeing her made them grateful not to be her. The sun was just coming up now. The first fallen leaves of autumn were scattered across the dewy streets. All along the city, she could hear the chorus of climbers shouting their trade. Sweep, sweep-o, sweep for your soot. Of course, Nan had her own way of getting work. It was the way the sweep had taught her. She saw a cluster of children on the steps of St. Paul's. They were all crowded around a filthy boy who had an enormous bag at his bare feet. Perched on his shoulder was a little white rat with horrible red eyes. No pushing, gentlemen, said the boy in a loud voice. There's treasure enough for all. Whatever your need, Toby Squall's Emporium has just the thing. Does it have a kick in the backside? Nan muttered. The boy somehow heard her. He waved his cap, revealing a head of wild orange curls. Hello, Smudge. He was always calling her that. She hated it even more than Cinderella. Care to browse the Emporium? The Emporium was what Toby called his junk bag. It was rumored that Toby's bag was magical and bottomless. On any given day, he could be seen hawking buttons, candle ends, playing cards, string, pocket knives, snails, cutlery, eye patches, wishbones, and even once a set of false teeth. He proudly described himself as an entrepreneur. Nan called him a pest. Toby Squall was a mudlark. He spent his days wading along the banks of the Thames, searching for rubbish and things he could repair and sell. Most mudlarks found only junk, but Toby had an eye for treasure. If there was a good bootlace or hairpin in the river, you could bet he would find it. I'm busy, Nan said. Just a peek, Toby clasped a hand to his heart. Everything's half price for my best girl. Toby was always calling Nan his best girl. He claimed to have loads of other girls, but Nan was his best. Go dunk your head, she said, walking more quickly. Her cheeks were burning, and she was grateful. They could not be seen beneath the grime. Nan and Toby had been having exchanges like this for the better part of 5 years. No matter what route Nan took each morning, Toby Squall somehow managed to be on the way. She cut up Bride Street to Farringdon Market. Girls and old women sold watercress and oranges and fresh oysters for a penny. Maids and butlers and servants rushed about on errands while their masters and mistresses slept late into the morning. The sweep had never understood how a person could sleep through the sunrise. It's like heaven itself is offering you a gift you're too lazy to open, he used to say. Then he'd wink and add, "Ah, well, more for us." Nan stopped in the middle of the market. People flowed around her like water around a stone. She closed her eyes and sang, "With brush and pail and suit and song, a sweep brings luck all season long." When Nan sang like this, she could almost hear the sweep singing with her, his voice high and bright. She kept her hand in her pocket, clasped tight around the sweep's char. It almost felt as if she were holding his hand. Sometimes she thought that if she could just sing loud enough, the sweep would hear her and would be drawn back to her by the song. As she sang, everything around her seemed to go quiet. Merchants and servants slowed their pace. Even beggars raised themselves from the gutters. She knew every one of them was thinking the same thing. How could such a voice come from a person so filthy? Nan opened her eyes to find her first customer. It was a woman in a black shift with a pinched expression. "Morning, Mum," Nan said, and tipped her top hat. It was much too large for her, and she kept the inside stuffed with newspaper so it wouldn't cover her eyes. The song was over, which meant the spell was broken. The woman now eyed Nan as though she might bite her. "Who's your master, boy?" Nan didn't bother correcting the woman about her being a girl. "I work for Wilkie Crud." When Crud's name drew no response, she added, "The clean sweep." "The clean sweep?" The woman's cheeks flushed red. "I may have heard something about him." Nan was pretty sure that something had to do with his being handsome. The woman touched the back of her hair as if it were made of glass. "Will your master be attending the tasks personally?" Nan pretended not to understand what she was asking. "I'll be doing the flues, Mum, but the master always comes round to settle the bill and give a final inspection." She let this last bit hang in the air like a promise. "Of course," the woman said. "Follow me." The woman led her up Holborn and Oxford Street. Nan glimpsed an abandoned mansion in Bloomsbury with more chimneys than she could count. The house was famous among climbers. They called it the House of 100 Chimneys. Everyone knew it was haunted. It was bad luck to even look at the place. The woman's heels clacked sharply against the wet sidewalk. Nan wondered what kind of house let the maid wear high boots. It didn't seem practical, but then rich folks never were. Nan's own feet were bare, her soles hard as leather from years of climbing rough brick. She didn't mind. Besides, in the wrong part of town, a pair of boots could get you killed. No one could steal what you didn't have. At last, they reached an imposing house in Marylebone. "Here we are," the woman said, removing her gloves. Nan looked up at the tall building, stone, not brick, with a flat front and many windows. No gables, no proper stoop, and far too many chimney stacks. Nan heard a pianoforte playing from one of the rooms on the second floor. A chorus of small voices sang along with it. "How doth the little busy bee improve its shining hour, and gather honey all the day from every opening flower." A few of the voices were pretty. All of them were eager. Nan listened to the singing and felt a nervous clench in her empty stomach. "What kind of a home do you keep?" The woman feigned insult. "I do not keep a home. This is Miss Mayhew's seminary for young ladies." When Nan did not respond, she added, "A seminary is a formal word for a—" "I know what it means," Nan said. She adjusted her bag on her shoulder. Let's get on with it. What's it like? Nan hated schools. They did not pay well, and the chimneys were always filthy on account of children burning all sorts of rubbish they weren't supposed to. There were other reasons, too. The woman who turned out to be something called a house mistress took Nan around back to the servants' entrance. Nan followed her into the kitchen on the ground floor, which was where the main chimney began. The air was warm and steamy from what smelled like peas pudding. The cook eyed Nan with open disgust. Get that trash out my kitchen before she blacks my biscuits. Nan silently gave up any hope of getting scraps. She made a point of letting the end of her brush rake across the wall as she passed, leaving a long streak of soot on the plaster. The house mistress led Nan to an enormous hearth on the back wall. It reeked of drippings and offal. It's this one here. The rest are upstairs, she said. The cook pushed past Nan and collected some kippers that had been smoking above the fire. Keep them hands in your pockets. I've counted every morsel of food in the larder. If I find even one bite missing, I'll reach into your mouth and pull it out from your belly myself. Nan was eager to get to work and away from the smell of food. It was clear that the fire had been doused only moments before her arrival. The bricks radiated heat. She squeezed the char in her pocket for good luck. She removed her coat and top hat and closed her eyes. If you have never climbed inside a chimney, perhaps you are wondering what it's like. Imagine holding an open book. Maybe you're holding one right now. Imagine a black tunnel exactly that size, an endless winding tunnel with no light at the end. Imagine that the walls of the tunnel are sharp enough to cut your skin bloody. Imagine some of the walls will crush you if you touch them wrong. Imagine some of the walls are on fire. Now, imagine placing a cloth over your head. Take a breath, if you still can, and crawl inside. Okay, that's it for tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Happy Valentine's Day.